Good morning to all. Learning is a treasure which accompanies its owner everywhere. I am overjoyed to be here. A warm welcome and a hearty good morning to one and all present here. Myself, Mr. Gio George, social work trainee, specialized in community development, Department of Social Work, Bharathasan University. It is our pleasure to have you all today for our 2 days online workshop on recent perspectives in community development, hosted by Dr. N. Rajavel and his team from Bharathasan University. I would be glad to welcome all once again. I hope that the workshop will be knowledgeable, profitable, and beneficial to everyone. Now, the COVID pandemic is spreading rapidly. We would like to start the workshop by mourning the loss of those who have lost their loved ones and for those who have sacrificed their lives in this pandemic by a silent prayer for 10 seconds. Before we begin the workshop, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who sincerely committed to this event to make it successful. This event would be impossible without the support of each and everyone present here. Next, I would like to call upon the person who is highly energetic, encouraging, motivating, and leading the students in an eminent way, Dr. N. Rajavel, Assistant Professor and Workshop Director, for giving the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Gio George. Good morning to all. Distinguished resource person, Dr. R. RAMESH, Associate Professor and Head, Center for Rural Infrastructure, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj, Hyderabad. Respected Professor Dr. R. Mangleshwaran and my colleagues and guest faculties, my dear students and resource persons, research scholars and dear participants. Those who are connected with us through the Google platform and YouTube live stream, warm good morning to all of you. I deem it a great pleasure to welcome our eminent resourceful resource person, Dr. R. RAMESH, Associate Professor and Head, Center for Rural Infrastructure, NIRD, Hyderabad. And I also welcome other resource persons of our program, Dr. Lakhan Singh, Assistant Professor, Center for Human Resource Development, NIRD, Hyderabad, and Dr. Vanisri Joseph, Assistant Professor, Center for Panchayat Raj, Decentralized Planning and Social Service Delivery, NIRD, Hyderabad, and also welcome Dr. Suchitra Pujari, Assistant Professor, Center for PG Studies and Distance Education, NIRD, Hyderabad. Welcome you, madam, and our Professor R. Mangleshwaran, Department of Social Work, Bharathasan University, and Senior Professor Dr. P. Ilango, Department of Social Work, Bharathasan University. My colleagues, Dr. J.O. Jerida Nanjain Eljo, Associate Professor, and Dr. D. Nirmala, Assistant Professor, and our guest faculties, Dr. Suresh Kumar, Dr. Karthikeyan, Dr. Selvamani, and students, friends, and dear participants to this 2-day online workshop on recent perspectives in community development. It is a 99th webinar of our departments. We have 567 participants registered for this workshop across the country. Once again, I welcome each and every one of you. Welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enriching words. As said by Mustafa Kamal, a good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. Now, I would like to grab this moment to welcome our esteemed professor and department head, Dr. R. Mangaleshwaran, to deliver the presidential address. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. The most, is it audible? Am
Yes,
I
sir.
clear? Yeah, fine. Thank you. Most respected resource person, Dr. Ramesh from NIRD, my colleague and the workshop director, Dr. N. Rajavel, the coordinators of this 99th webinar, uh, my dear students, Dr. George Vijayan and Shiva, the other resource persons, my colleagues in the department, guest faculties, and my dear participants who are just watching this program through this Google Meet as well as through YouTube. A warm good morning to all of you. I'm very glad to see Dr. Ramesh again to this virtual platform. Because we happened to Dr. Rajavel happened to invited him during the last pandemic, and it is indeed a great pleasure to have Dr.
Great to be
Ramesh
here,
once.
sir. Thanks for the
Yeah,
invitation.
yes,
Great
sir.
to be
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
sir.
Yeah, and that too for the 99th program of our department. And of course, we are getting into the 100th webinar next week, and we'll be having a grand celebration for 5 days. So that's a great sign that with the cooperation of all the faculty members, my colleagues, and the student friends, research scholars, and the guest faculties, we are able to do a wonderful work in the Department of Social Work. So, but for their support, I hope that this would not have been a very great success. And coming to the topic, right? So, as chosen by Dr. Rajavel and his team of students, the recent perspectives in community development is really a great topic. And as far the community development is concerned, because students have been doing a very tremendous work in the various fields. As students of medical and psychiatric, they have done a very good job, and students of HR, and now it is the turn of the steady students to showcase their talent, and also by having this program on the recent perspectives in community development, right? So this is as rightly pointed out by the one of the coordinator, Father Brother George, and during this pandemic situation, so how we are going to take up the community development, so that too in a very turbulent environment, and the community work is going to be a formidable challenges for all of us. And when you just look into the outcome of this COVID and the pandemic situation, and the livelihood almost is at stake, right? And there is a number of persons increasing on the unemployment issues, right? So when you just look into the last year data, because given by Azim Premji University, almost 230 million Indian fell into the poverty, right? So that is a very astonishing news for all of us, and wherein they live less than 375 rupees per day. So this is the actually the studies done by the Asis Premji University, Bangalore. This is related to the first wave, right? And that is really a daunting effect on the second wave too. But we have to see, I think Professor Dr. Ramesh will be the right person, and his own team members from NIRD would be the right person to talk about all those things. And moreover, when you just look into the situations of the jobless, the Center for Monitoring and the Indian economy, so they have come out with that their most 3.7 million jobs were lost during April alone, right? So how many went into the debt? So cut back in the food consumption. So these are all some of the issues which we need to take into account while trying to have a discussion around the topic on community development. Especially, that we know that how the 17 sustainable development goals with 169 associated target, which is need to be achieved by 2030, and how we are going to achieve, because we know that we all as people who are specialized in the field of community development, we are all very abreast with the 17 goals and the 169 associated target. But thing is that how we are going to take way forward for this, and that too during this pandemic situation, how our India is going to achieve. That's a thing, right? As a social work students, and it is also our duty to take up the shoulder the responsibility in fulfilling the sustainable development goals. And the topics, let me just coming to the topic which has been really framed by Dr. Rajavel and his team. Right, so that's a very good topic. Mostly centering around the community development, on the ideas of development, the how we need to develop the model villages under the current situations, and SDGs and all those things. As really a very good, the title and the topics and even the appropriate resource person have been chosen for this particular program. So my best wishes to the whole team of CD students for bringing a very viable and vital resource persons for this program. And I also wish all the participants a great learning experiences, and I am hope to see you all for our 100th webinar, so which will be celebrated and on from 4th to 8th. And moreover, it is our silver jubilee celebration. So we started our department in the year 1996, and now we are in the 25th year celebration of our department. I welcome you all to the virtual platform, and stay connected with us for those programs also. And we extend a warm and cordial welcome all of you. With these few words, let me once again congratulate the team spearheaded by Dr. Rajavel and others, and it's a great pleasure for being with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. Now, I would like to share a few things about our beloved chief guest, Dr. R. Ramesh. I feel proud and honored to introduce today's resource person, Dr. R. Ramesh. He earned his PhD degree in rural development at the Gandhigram Rural University in India. For his PhD, he studied the drinking water sector reform of Government of Tamil Nadu, India. He has worked for a variety of projects with varied scope and scale for over 20 years now. He also served as a training expert for a DANIDA assisted projector on water and sanitation of Government of Tamil Nadu for 5 years. He has a real flair for empirical research and field-based reporting. He won for Gandhigram Trust the World Bank's India Country Level Development Marketplace Award 2004. He has worked as project officer for the Terrain Das Honors, a Netherlands-based INGO with its India's country office in Bangalore. He has co-authored 7 books, 24 research papers, and 8 of them in international journals. Currently, he is working as associate professor and head of the Center for Rural Infrastructure at the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj, Hyderabad, which is a think tank on rural development and local governance under the Ministry of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj, Government of India. He is on the editorial board of the Journal of Rural Development, published by the NIRDPR. Dr. Ramesh represents NIRDPR as member of the subject expert group on capacity building and scheme governance under the UBA program of the Ministry of HRD Government of India. Let's get session started right away. Today we have an outstanding and veteran resource person, Dr. RAMESH, who will handle our workshop's topic on the idea of development. Over to you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, George, for the elaborate introduction, and I must thank the organizers, Professor Mangleshwaran, Dr. Rajvel, and his team of faculty members and students for inviting me once again to be with you all, and it feels really great. It feels really great to be here, also to discuss an important topic. I mean, development, the idea of development. And if I ask every one of you here, because I mean, this is online, may not be possible. And if I ask you to write in the chat also, what is your idea of development? What do you mean by development at all? If I ask each one of you, maybe I can get over 100 different definitions here. You will have your own definitions of development. What do you see as development, or what do you define as development? So today, I think for about 1 hour now, that's the topic for discussion. And I'll take you through the evolution. I'll take you through the evolution of the idea of development. That's what I'm planning. So let me share my slide and get started. I hope it's visible, right? Oh. Okay. It's visible, right?
No, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes, sir, it was visible.
Okay, now? George, is it okay? You are able to see the slide?
At now, it can't see. Just before it was there. Yes, sir, it is presenting. Yes, sir, we can see.
It doesn't come to full screen mode, right? It doesn't.
Yeah, yes, sir. Doesn't come in full screen mode.
You see it now?
Yes, sir, not in a full screen mode, but you can start now, sir.
Okay, okay. Fine. So I call this understanding development, some perspectives, and then paradigm shifts. When I talk about paradigm shifts, you can understand that I'm trying to take you through and the evolution. So the idea of development. And some of you might be wondering, is it about history that we are referring to, or like the history of development, right? History of development. If you take, for example, the human evolution itself, you can say that is a very long history that we can talk about, from the evolution of from chimpanzee to humans, that we know that man came from chimpanzees. And I think it will be surprising to many of you to know that the DNA difference between a chimpanzee and humans is 2%, they are saying. Maybe that is, I mean, quite understandable that the way some of us behave, but might be surprising to come to know that the DNA difference between chimpanzee and the humans, they say it is hardly 2%, right? So I mean, we from chimpanzee we started walking erect, and then we started tool use, and then tool making, and we invented fire, and then moved on to agriculture, right? From hunter gatherers to agriculture, then moved on to industrial age, and then information age, and then knowledge society now, right? So if you see the evolution, right, over millions of years, that is a very long history, the evolution of humans. And if you see the evolution of humans, and also alongside, you can also see the developments that we have been making in our lives, the development humans have been making in our life. So can we learn anything from such history? That's what we are trying to do. Let's ask a factory worker. What is development? To him, what is development? Maybe he will say that if they announce 10% bonus during Diwali, that is development to me. His definition of development, right? If they announce 10% Diwali bonus, that is development to me, a factory worker may say. And another factory worker may say, if they don't sack me from work during this pandemic, that is development, because I am afraid everybody is being sacked from work, and so people are being thrown out of factory unemployed. So if they don't sack me from work that during this pandemic, that itself is development, and I'll live at peace. And that's his way of looking at development. And if you ask a farmer, and he might say, if I get a good harvest this year, that is development to me. Right? So each one, we have our own definitions of development or understanding of development. You ask three economists, I'm sure all of you are able to recognize these people. You ask Jagdish Bhattacharya, he says progress means GDP. That is the prime thing. If there is improvement in GDP, if there is progress in GDP, obviously everything else will fall in place. Because you focus on your GDP development, progress in GDP, everything will fall in place. That is his idea of development. And you ask our Abhijit Banerjee, the man on the right, he's saying, no, development is not just simply about GDP. It is about how GDP is distributed so that the poor get the major share of the GDP, leading to the reduction in inequality. There must be reduction in poverty, there must be reduction in inequality, and the way we see rich becoming richer and the poor becoming poorer, that means inequality is widening in this society. So what I see as development is, I mean, from the standpoint of Abhijit Banerjee, I would say that for him, development means the narrowing the inequality. If you can bridge the inequality, there should not be widening inequality, there should be narrowing of the inequality, bridging the inequality. That must happen. That is what development to me is, he says. And you ask our grandfather Amartya Sen, right? He would say development is capability enhancement. I have certain capabilities, I have certain skill sets, and enhancement in my capability, enhancement in my skill sets, and the opportunity available for enhancing my capability, and the opportunity available for me to choose doing what I like doing, what I value doing. That is what development is. So for him, development means there must be opportunities available for me to enhance my capability, and there must be also opportunities available for me to be able to use my enhanced capability to lead the type of life I like living, and I value living, right? That's what development to him. So I mean, my point is that each one of us have our own we have our own definitions of development, and the same thing holds good for economics also. It is not that one definition they all get. So similarly, if you keep going, we can say, what does development mean for those living in Norway? We know Norway is one of the richest countries in the world, or or one of the top countries in Human Development Index. You ask the citizens in Norway, what do you mean by development? They might say it is psychological well-being. He would not definitely talk about the physical, because he has come far away from the physical well-being, and he would say psychological well-being, meditation, happiness, inner peace. That is what he is looking for. That is what he thinks he does not have. He has everything else in life. He has plenty of wealth. He has all the prosperity that he wanted. He has all the comforts in life. But what he needs is psychological well-being. Psychologically, somehow I feel I'm not okay, right? So happiness I need. Meditation, they say I go for meditation. Maybe I need to do meditation. Maybe I'm looking for inner peace. He may say that. And then you ask somebody in a middle income country like India or Bangladesh, around countries around us, they might say, sir, all I need is permanent job and income. If there is a permanent job and income, that is what development to me is. And I would say my country is developing or developed. All I need is permanent job and income for those living in middle income countries. You go to the poorest country of the world. You go to the poorest countries of the world and you ask them, people there, what do you mean by development? They might say food security. You ensure 3 times food to me, because I'm not getting enough food to eat in the first place, and I have no mind to talk about yoga or your meditation or inner peace or psychological well-being or happiness, and I am hungry. Give me food. Ensure food security to me. So that is what his definition would be. So poorest countries of the world, maybe citizens may define development as ensuring food security to all the citizens. And you go to another country, the terror-torn countries like with ethnic conflicts like Afghanistan or South Sudan. You go out to those citizens and ask, because those countries are known for terrorism, known for ethnic conflicts and all. So you go and ask the people there, they would say that security to life, that I have come away now to a marketplace. I came from home to a marketplace, and I am afraid if I will go back home alive. I am afraid if I will go back home alive. Right? I have come to a market. This is a terror-torn country. This is a country with a lot of ethnic conflicts. Right? Anybody can hold a gun, and anybody can murder anybody. So I am afraid if I will go back home alive. So my problem is security to life. Is my life is under threat. So I need security. So my point is that there are several different definitions. So the meaning of development, if we ask people, variety of people, their definitions, if we get to know from them, if you go on a journey, asking for their definitions, you will understand development has taken to mean different things at different times in different places by different people in different professions and organizations. They have different interpretations for development. So maybe as of now, let us understand that development can mean a change that is desirable. As of now, I mean, although many people have their own definition, several different definitions. Even within economists differ in their own definitions, right? And so let us come to one just single line. Okay, then what do you say? One single line that we can have in our mind as development. Development can mean a change that is desirable. A change that, what change I desire? I desire security to life. That is development to me. I desire food security. That is development to me. I desire employment and income, permanent job and income. That is development to me. So development can mean a change that is desirable. We can say that. As of now, let this be our definition as of now. And also we need to see also, is development an intentional activity or unintentional process? We say a society is dynamic, and a society does not stop at any time. There is always change in the society, culture, economics. There is always change happening. So can we say that development is only an intentional activity? Whatever that you intentionally plan, maybe you have your 5-year plans or you have your 1-year plan, whatever plan that you have as an intentional plan, and is it that the society is moving only in that direction that you planned? Is that an intentional activity only, or it is an unintentional process? Suppose you don't do anything at all. You don't, I mean, what I mean is, suppose you don't plan anything at all. Will there be change taking place in a country, in a village, in a society? Right? And then there could be unintentional process also. So if development means good change, if you think if development means good change, questions arise as to what is good. Good means what? Good change means what? They say desirable change. You say by desirable means good change. Good change, good means what? What is good? What sort of change matters, right? Any development agenda is value laden, and not to consider good things to do is a tacit surrender to fatalism. We don't surrender to fate. We never surrender to fate. If we surrender to fate, then we can say that it is an unintentional process. God is deciding everything. There is one big person up above, and he is deciding everything. Nothing is in my hand. And so as God, the way God desires, things will happen. We don't surrender like that. Yes, although we may have faith in God, we may have faith in God, but we don't surrender to that fatalism that it is as per fate, things will move. And so I am just sitting quietly, I'm not planning anything. We don't do that, right? So we can say that it is partly intentional activity, it is partly unintentional as well. So can we consider this idea? Development is a gamut of changes by which a social systems move away from a state of life perceived as unsatisfactory, a state of life perceived as unsatisfactory towards a better condition of life. I am living in a state of life perceived as unsatisfactory. I'm trying to move towards a better condition of life. And this better condition of life, what and what it contains. Better condition in my basket. You know, if I call it a basket, this is my better condition of life. What and what it includes, that is another thing to discuss about. But as of now, we can say that I am living in a state of unsatisfactoriness. Now I am trying to move towards a better condition of life. So this is how the development debate, this is how the development debate or development understanding has been changing from person to person, from place to place, from country to country. It has been changing. And now let us see how this planned development, our planned development, how it started defining. And we can say, although we started our planned development in the 50s, and even before that in the 1930s, Tagore in India, he started his own experiments on development, and let me not go into that. And if we talk about a period when we started thinking about planned development in India, and also with international influences, that this is what development is all about. Otherwise, it was all considered, all the time it was considered as local development, the development of small communities. That's what it was spoken about. And now that we are talking about the broad contours, of development. So we can say the first approach, perhaps you also heard about it, the basic needs approach. That's where we started thinking, oh, this is an excellent approach. It looks like a very good approach that we need, because we know the conditions of life that was in 1970s, then 1970s in India, because it was at that time that India was seriously thinking about even food security for all the citizens, and that was a challenge. Until that time, even food security was a challenge. Although we had our 5-year plans and all, and we had our agriculture plan, we had our industrial plan, all that, all said and done. But in 1970s is the period then we started seriously thinking about, why are we not trying to address some of the basic needs? Let us address, instead of trying to do one in a scattered way, in a hodgepodge way, one work here, one work there, laying hand all over. Instead of doing that, why not we have one proper approach, which we call basic needs approach? Let us try to address the basic needs of people. And this idea originally came in 1940s itself. And the idea of basic needs, it came in 1940s itself. I hope almost all of you know here about Maslow's needs hierarchy theory. The first basic pyramid that man was talking about was the basic needs. That's where the idea of basic needs came from. The basic needs approach to rural development, it came from the Maslow's theory of needs hierarchy. And the bottom line that he was saying was that people must be ensured, first of all, their food. Food must be ensured and the basic necessities must be ensured so that they will be moving on to desire for more, aspire for more. So that is where it started. So in the 1950s, the concept of minimum needs started being discussed in the Indian Planning Commission. It started being discussed in the Indian Planning Commission, and but basic needs had not become a mainstream approach. Even in that time, it had not become a mainstream approach. And although it was considered as an attractive topic to talk about in seminars, conferences, and workshops about the minimum needs and basic needs, and that was the idea of discussion wherever there was some discussion about development in India, be it Indian Planning Commission or universities for that matter. So later on, the basic needs as a development strategy, the ILO started introducing in 1970s. That's what I am referring to here. ILO started introducing basic needs as a development strategy, and it was advocating to all the countries of the world. All the, I mean, at that time you would find very few developed countries. At that time you find very few developed countries. Almost all the countries of the world were sailing in the same boat of this daily survival. So that way, the ILO started introducing basic needs as a strategy, and then immediately from ILO it got on with UN, UNDP, World Bank, IMF. Everybody started talking about the basic needs strategy, and I am sure you have studied about this in your academic program also. So they thought development is about fulfilling the basic needs of humans, they thought. And when it comes to basic needs, what are basic needs? There was a discussion about it, and they said food, shelter, and clothing. And then later on, they added also, no, we need to add the food, shelter, clothing, and then clean water and education. We need to add also clean water and education. Later, somebody revised saying, when you talk about food, obviously it includes clean water also, safe water also. So let us have food, shelter, clothing, and education. So it is going by common sense. Going by common sense also. That sense. That sounds sensible. That let us call this as basic needs. And later on, ILO they came with their own definitions in '76 again, and what they defined basic needs means food, clothing, housing, education, and public transport. There must be public transport. People must have mobility, so that only when they have mobility, then you can ensure employment and then more income. So let us add also public transport, and food obviously includes safe drinking water. So when you talk about basic needs, by definition, what ILO meant was this only. And today, if I ask somebody to define what is basic needs today, they would before food and all, they will add obviously the connectivity or Wi-Fi. Maybe that will come also today. That's how the life is changing now. So this is one way of looking at development. How this idea of development, where did we started seriously thinking about, seriously debating about, seriously discussing about the development, and then what do we consider development in the 70s? In the 70s, when we started seriously debating about development. Now, from there, we moved on and we evolved. I should say that the idea of development evolved to add a few more things. After some time, there was a question that you are talking about the basic needs like food, shelter, clothing. Is that all? Don't you think humans have self-respect? We are not like any other animals. And we, however poor I may be very, very poor. However poor I may be, I have self-respect. I want to live a life with freedom. I need freedom. I need self-respect, right? So don't you think we need to include this also in the basic elements of development, right? So along with the basic needs of life, then this came to be added, like self-respect and freedom, that came to be added. And then to achieve the basic necessities of life, it was considered that we need to see that the citizens have increased per capita availability of the basic necessities of life. For example, the basic necessities like food availability for everybody, water availability for everybody, educational service available for everybody, healthcare service available for everybody. So we started thinking in those lines. And then also per capita availability for 1,000 population, for 10,000 population, how many schools are there? If you're talking about school, right? And housing, and what is the condition of the housing? Such things came to be spoken about. And then the next is, I told you about self-respect. Every person and every nation seeks some sort of self-respect, dignity and honor. And it may be very, very poor country, it may be very, very poor person, but everybody has their own honor, dignity and self-respect they must be able to live with. So that way, absence or denial of self-respect indicates lack of development. Suppose I'm not respected, absence of or denial of self-respect itself is a lack of development. So that way, we need to include also self-respect and as one of the important elements in development. This came along with other basic necessities of life. And then we moved on also to see freedom. What do we mean by freedom? Freedom from ideological ties, like ideological freedom, economic freedom, freedom from social servitude. All these came along in the sense that ideological freedom means, there was a time that whatever the holy book says, that stands, right? So that's how life was. It cannot be like that. It is based on an ideology. Let us not go for ideology. We must get freedom from such ideologies, and we must have economic freedom, and we must have freedom from social servitude. We should not be a man should not be slave to another person, and we should not be dogmatically believing some institutions and some holy books. We should not be doing that, and we must have freedom to think. We must have freedom to exercise our own thinking. That's what freedom is about. So this came because many people across the world, you can say, they suffer from variety of unfreedom. You can say variety of unfreedom. It can be related to religion, it can be related to a holy book, it can be related to an ideology, right? It happens, right? So now we saw basic needs, and from there we expanded to see also to include self-respect and freedom there. And then later we thought, if this is how we look at life, then later we thought we need to go for a comprehensive thinking. It is not just about the basics. We need to move away from the basic needs, and we need to go for some kind of comprehensive development plan. We must go for some kind of comprehensive development plans. And in that line, it came from basic needs to MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals today. So, and this is how, I mean, the development trajectory has been. This is how the development trajectory has been from basic needs that started in 1970s. It was the main stream discussion until almost 2000, because if you see many of the schemes and programs before 2000, it was all related to employment generation to be able to provide income to the people so that they will fulfill their basic needs. That's what the many of the development schemes and programs of the government were focusing on, basic human needs. And then after 2000, we thought that we need to go for a comprehensive type of development, and which goes much beyond the basic needs. So we went for Millennium Development Goals, and I'm sure all of you know that we were implementing it all over the world. It was being implemented for 15 years from 2000 to 2015, and then taking stock of MDGs and what achievements that we could make through MDGs, Millennium Development Goals. Then from 15 to 2030, for another 15 years, we moved on to another development strategy which we call Sustainable Development Goals, which will be discussed also later in this program. So this is how we have been moving from 75 to 2000, and from 2000 to 2015 we have Millennium Development Goals, and from Millennium Development Goals now we have moved on to Sustainable Development Goals, and to see by 2030 we fulfill many of the comprehensive development that we have planned. And you will see when you see the SDGs in full, but I just would indicate a few here in this presentation also now. So
Excuse me, sir.
yeah,
PPT is not.
It's not moving.
No, presentation is not. We are not seeing presentation.
Excuse me, sir. Your presentation is moving somewhere else. Can you represent?
You can tell me if you see it now. Do you see it now?
Yeah, it's coming, sir.
Okay, you can please stop me. If you don't see, you stop me, please. Now, so this is what I was referring to, that basic needs. From 1975 to 2000, we had basic needs, and then from 2000 to 2015, 2000 to 2015, we had MDGs, and then from 2015 to 2030, now we are working on sustainable development goals, we can say that. So there are differing views on development. We can say that we set up three propositions here: gathering from whatever knowledge we had, gathering from whatever knowledge we gained through the discussions on development. We can have three different perspectives here. One is development as a long-term process of structural social transformation. This goes with the idea of your unintentional development taking place, and whether you plan or not, whether your DRDA, whether your BDO office, whether your the collector office, whether they are there or not, there will be development taking place, because every humans, they have an innate urge, innate aspiration to come up in life. So they will do something or the other, agriculture or trade or business or whatever they will do to come up in life, and that way they will improve their standard of living, quality of life and all. So development as a long-term process of structural social transformation that cannot be stopped anyway, and whether you have programs or whether you have government programs or government officers or not, that is one. The second is development as a short to medium term outcome of desirable targets. This is second way of looking at it. This is what the MDG is about, and this is what the SDG is about. Like, for example, I'm saying development as a short to medium term. Short to medium term, by short to medium term, what I mean is today the literacy level is 77%. And after 3 years, the 77% must move to 93%. So that is what the desirable target is. Our target is from 77 to 93, from 93 to 98. So that way, we on all development indicators, we have the desirable targets, and that is short to medium term targets we have, and then we try to move towards that. And that is another way of looking at development. And the third way of looking at is development as a dominant discourse of the Western modernity. And this is another thing, and this goes with the idea that development is a discourse that you don't have any idea of your own, and it is something that is coming from some Western countries, and they say this is what development is, and you catch hold of that and you start talking about it, that this is what development is, and this is what real development is, right? So that is another way of looking at it. Now, if we go to discuss about the major perspectives on development, we can say number one perspective is development as a long-term process of structural transformation, societal transformation that I was telling you about, and that is one way of looking at it. And the second one, and this vision long-term process, if you take for example the life, how life was to humans. For example, it was a life of hunter-gatherers. We know humans, when we started our life about several thousand years ago, we can say it was all hunting and gathering only. There was no agriculture even. And man started then thinking that why not we go for agriculture, right? Instead of going daily morning, going around for hunting and gathering, right? Why not we go for agriculture? Why not we go for domestication of animals for energy? When we want to use energy for lifting or energy for transport, why not we use and domesticate and use animals for that? So from agriculture based society to urban society to industrial revolution, industrial based society to information age, to knowledge age. So this was all happening over hundreds and hundreds of years. And so, this shift from tradition to modern society, this is what development is about, and this is what that is taking place without your permission, without my permission, without the permission of the government, or without any induced development, without any kind of investments or budget or money. It is taking place as such. We can say that. But the problem with this is a grand vision of development over a period of 50 years, 100 years, 300 years, all that. It is a kind of grand vision, and this vision cannot help in policy making. I hope if you are with me, you understand that this kind of grand vision cannot help in policy making. What will be useful for policy making is that you must have specific indicators on education, on health, on various indicators. If you have some database, data-driven, evidence-based development, you can make. But this kind of grand vision of development that the society will move on its own, that will not help a development planner for policy making. So that way, we moved on in the 5-year plan, in the 3-year plan, and all that. We thought we need another approach, and that approach was MDG and SDG, and we have HDI today. So the second perspective came into being, that is Sustainable Development Goal as a second perspective. So I'm just slightly expanding whatever I was telling you before. So development as a short to medium term outcome of desirable targets, like in terms of poverty, where we need to move on. In terms of hunger, where we need to move on. In terms of healthcare, where we need to move on. In terms of education, in terms of health, gender equality, in terms of drinking water, in terms of sanitation. So in each of these, where we need to move, where we stand today, and in 2030, where we are supposed to be. Where do we stand on all these today, and where do we want to stand after 15 years from now, after 10 years from now? That's the second perspective, right? So that's what I call development as a short to medium term outcome of desirable targets. So let us have a desirable targets, and this is technocratic view. This is trained way of planning. Technocratic view or trained way of planning. Let us have some performance indicators. Like, let us have some performance indicators, like you call outstanding student, you call very good student, you call average student. So you have certain performance indicators. Similarly, let us have some desirable targets, and then we can move towards becoming very good or excellent or outstanding. Let us move towards that. That's what it is, and that's what SDG is about. So, and when we talk in terms of SDGs, then we need to also talk about the input level indicators, output level indicators, outcome level indicators in impact what we want to see. We need to see input level means what kind of planning must be going into that, how much money or budget must be going into that, and with this kind of budget, what kind of output can we expect, and from this output, what kind of outcome can we expect, and what will it impact in? We need to think in those lines. For example, if you take just a simple grassroots level example, if we take one to show you, the smokeless chula, some of our home science universities and others, they have the smokeless chula program. So you can say the input was the money, resource person employed, study material supplied, and the smokeless chula supplied, and the time spent on all that. That can be the input. And then what is the output? 45 women have been trained in 3 days time. We have trained 45 women in 3 days time. Okay, fine. And then outcome, the older chulas have been removed from their houses. They have started using the smokeless chula supplied by the project. Okay, that's fine. That is the outcome. And then what is the impact of this? There is less smoke in that house, and the recent medical examination reports indicate that the incidence of lung-related diseases and eye-related diseases have come down by 40%. This is the impact of providing this smokeless chula. So this is technocratic view, trained view of development. Like, what is the input, what is the output, what is going to be the outcome, and what impact do we expect from this? This is where we are now, and this is what SDG is about. And SDG talks about poverty, about education, about water, sanitation, each of these in these lines, right? So for example, you take housing. The Government of India's program today is to give to see that all rural households have a proper house to live by 2022. By 2022, all the households must have, all the rural people must have proper house to live in. And so we started 2013, what was the condition? And 2016-17, what is the condition? And 2020-21, what is the condition? We can move on. Literacy levels, how it is progressing. So we are able to see with data, we are able to see how we are making progress in life. Similarly, girls in school, the share of girls who are joining the primary schools, if you see how from 70s to 2015, if you in 70s hardly 65% of the schools were going to school. Now we say in 2015 it was 90%, and 2020 might be about 95% or so. So with the data, we are able to say that, you see, we are able to measure and tell you with evidence that this is happening, right? That's what it is. And then child dying, percentage of child before they dying, before they see their 5th birthday. And you can see about 200 years ago, you can see about 44% of the children were dying. Out of 100 children, 44% of the children were dying. Now hardly 4 children dying, 3 children dying. So we are making progress. I mean, we are able to measure and show that this is happening. In child labor in 1950s, if you see, we had about 28%, and to 2012 it was 10%. Now maybe perhaps hardly 3-4%, right? So we are able to measure, and so child and infant mortality, we can give several examples. Let me not go into many examples. So what I mean to say is, my point is that we are able to show, measure and show that this is happening. This is what SDG is about.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
PPT is not moving,
The
sir.
slide is not moving.
Okay, okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, yeah. So now there is. I was showing you this all only, these graphs. I was showing you these graphs only. Right. So now there is also a criticism about it. There is also a criticism about it that you decided 17 SDG goals. And who decided these 17 SDG goals? That is the question coming up now. You have decided 17 SDG goals, and some top people in the world, you sat in a room and you all discussed these 17 goals. And who gave you the authority to decide that only there are 17? Why not it be 19? Why not it be 27? Why not it be 35? Right. So it is a paternalistic assumption that you have, like a fatherly assumption, as if we are all children and you are father, and father is deciding for the children, right? And the rich people are deciding for the poor people. And who gave you that? Criticism is there. Let me not go into that criticism, but still the approach is that when we have data in hand, it can be 17 goals, 19 goals, doesn't matter. But when we have the point is, when we have data in hand, we'll be able to show with evidence that there is development taking place, right? And the third one I was telling you about, the development as a course of Western modernity. Western modernity means anybody white-skinned person and with a coat suit, if he comes and tells you, you see, your problem is this. If he tells you that your problem is this, your problem is that you don't take safe water. The idea of safe water, actually the idea of safe water came from outside, we can say. The idea of washing hands, now because of COVID, all of us are getting into washing hands, that is one. But the many ideas like that, it came from the Western modernity, that they gave this idea, and we started discussing that this is important to us also. Like, for example, I can say that transgender, for example, transgender. Why are we not discussing about transgender? Why are you not in your country discussing about transgender? When we were discussing about the basic needs, when we are thinking about food security to all the person, safe drinking water to all the person, and every household to have a toilet and stop open defecation, when this is the agenda, and there is an agenda being inserted, that is, why are you not talking about the gay freedom to gay marriages, and also the third gender? Why are you not discussing about it? So we get such ideas also sometimes, and that gets the mainstream discussion, that comes on the mainstream discussion, and brushing aside and then leaving aside all the important issues that we need to discuss about. That is also there, that we need to be alert about. That is what the third idea is about, that it is not your own idea, it is not an indigenous idea, it is not your need, but somebody told you that this is your need, and so you are into that. So that's what it is. So words influence thinking, and it will influence the course of development also, like through the changing agenda. They can even change the agenda of discussion. When your agenda of discussion is about water, drinking water, and they can change the course of discussion to gay marriages, lesbian marriages, and there will be a group of people shouting about that also, and that way your focus is being diverted also, you can say that. And through modifying minds, through legitimating new actions, and through stimulating and focusing research and learning, that happens also. So this is another way of looking at it. The third point is that it may not be your idea. Just because somebody from outside said that, you took it up as your agenda, you are forgetting your original agenda. That's what another thing is about. So let me, yeah. So the point I made about this is that some rich northern countries, they decide for the poor south countries, right? We know, if we draw a line in the global map here, you can understand that there are all the rich countries, northern countries, western countries are all rich, we can see, and there are poor southern countries, and they decide your development agenda. They tell you what you need to discuss about, because sometimes it happens that money comes from them. They give aid, so you start giving that priority. You start talking about it. You bring that to the mainstream agenda for discussion, because they give funds for discussing about it. That's another way of looking at development. So we can say development in actual, to formulate a proper definition of development. So there are several complications now that I don't know if I have put across anything, but we understand that there are several standpoints, several perspectives on development. Like it can be ideological, it can be emotional, like I was telling you about the third sex, third gender, and also about gay marriages and all. And it can be about normative also, like SDG, MDG. It is normative connotations also. So we can also define based on actual social practices and the consequences. So there are several ways of looking at development. The idea of development, there are several ways of looking at it, and the way we have come, or the journey we have had has been wonderful, and we have been able to learn quite a lot. And one recent measure of development, and we can say that it is in the international agenda also, that I mentioned. One is about SDG, and then there is one more that is about Human Development Index. I'm sure you heard about it. Human development reports are coming every year. So HDA, Human Development Index, that is another thing that all the countries, about 186 countries, I think, and they are into this, and they decide on education, on literacy, on health, on income. They decide where they need to move, where each country has to move, and they prepare the national level agenda. Every country prepares national level agenda. Every state, like in India also, we have every state, every district, they are supposed to have their own human development indices. So it was started in 1990, we can say. It was started in 1990, and now this is another important agenda that the government is working towards. The basic objective of development is to create an enabling environment. That's the purpose of this, for people to enjoy long and healthy life, and long, healthy and creative life. That's it. And if you ask where this idea comes from, where this idea of human development comes from, we can say it comes from the Amartya Sen's idea of capability theory. It comes from the idea of capability theory, and this is also known as capability approach to development, we can say. Capability approach. I told you when I opened this discussion, and I mentioned about Amartya Sen's idea of development also, that it is about freedom. It is about freedom, it is about opportunities, it is about choices. So, and his one-line definition, Amartya Sen's one-line definition of development is the process of enlarging people's choices. This one sentence, it talks a thesis. You can say it talks a thesis. you can say development is the process of enlarging people's choices. You must enlarge people's choices in the sense, but if I want to go for education, I must have a variety, choices I must have to choose from. I cannot have just one state policy. I must have choices to choose from, which one I would want to have. And similarly, healthcare, a variety from the government, from the private, public, private. So the variety of choices must be given to me. And so development is about providing choices to the people and give them. There are two important things in capability theory. I would say one is about the opportunity, expansion of choices, and then enhancement of human capabilities. So there must be possibility for enhancing my capabilities. I am a teacher. I want to enhance my capabilities. There must be opportunity available for me to enhance my capabilities. I am a student, and I must be given opportunity to enhance my capabilities through a variety of interaction with variety of people in variety of forums. So that way I enhance my capabilities. Now that, okay, I have enhanced my capabilities, and now to be able to apply my enhanced capability, there must be choices available also. You expand the choices available, that somebody who has specialized in social work, somebody who has specialized in economics, somebody who has specialized in sociology, and they should be working only in this sector. Let us not confine it like that, and let me keep expanding my capabilities, and choices must be thrown open, and the choices must be expanded as much as possible, and I should be able to choose to do what I value doing, what I like doing, what I enjoy doing, right? So that is what the capability theory is about. And based on that, this HDI has been constructed. And in HDI, if you see, it will look like some three indicators. Like HDI goes with these three indicators: long and healthy life, opportunities for long and healthy life, opportunity to be educated and knowledgeable, and opportunity to find access to employment and income. Opportunity to find employment, income, and assets, they say. So if you see this one, okay, the first one is about health, the second one is about education, and the third one is about employment and income. It may look like that, but if you expand this with the minor indicators, if you expand this, when will you get a long and healthy life? For you to be able to have a long and healthy life, you must have nutritious food in the first place. That is one. And to have that nutritious food, you must have proper income. And then if it is about healthy life, then you must have proper hospital facilities. When I say hospital facilities, I must have a variety, choice. Where do I want to go, and which is affordable to me? So I must have that. Similarly, when it comes to education, choices must be made available, and for me to become knowledgeable, if I want to become knowledgeable, I need to have the choices to be able to do that. So there is quite a lot of indicators, and they have mixed up all that, and to be able to come out with collapsed all that to be able to come out with these three indicators, you can say. And simply, it might look like life expectancy at birth, average education level, standard of living. It might look like that HDI, but it has a lot of smaller indicators inside. And you can say that. I think I've been talking for long. I think I must move towards my end of my slide. So the central questions are, in this particular capability thing, do I have the capability required to earn a living? Are there policies in place to expand opportunities so that people are able to use their capabilities and earn a living? So this is the prime question about the capability. This is the prime question about development. This is the prime question about HDI. Right? Do I have the capability required to earn a living? This is a question with every citizen in the world, every citizen in the country. Do I have the capability? What capability I have? And if I want to enhance my capability, do I have the opportunities to do that? After enhancing my capabilities, and are there choices available where I can apply my capabilities, earn an income, live a decent life, or live a life that I value living, live a life I enjoy living, right? So this is the central question, we can say that. So I think I'll leave you with some with the three important questions only finally. Yeah, I think, I have a feeling that I have been talking for long. So let me just conclude here. And suppose, or you think that this man has been talking for 1 hour. He has been giving a lot of ideas of development, that he said initially that it is an unintentional process, that the society will not stop, and whether there is a collector office is there or not, schemes or there are not, development will take place. And because every human beings, they have an innate urge to come up in life, aspiration to come up in life. That was one point. And the second point made was about the MDGs and SDGs, where you must have short to medium term measurable targets, so that you are able to budget, you are able to have a 5-year plan and move towards that. That is another way of looking at development. The third one I said was that it is something that the Western people gave on you. For example, poverty, and your definition of what is your definition of poverty and what is his definition of poverty. So your definition of poverty could be food security. Your definition of poverty could be having proper healthcare and proper education. And his definition of poverty could be the relative poverty, that I must have a better car, I must have one more car, right? So that could be another thing. So that way, there are several ways of looking at the development. So the idea of development, it differs from country to country, from person to person, from professional to profession, profession to profession, you can say that. And also, one of the important thing is, depending on the stage of development at given countries. Depending on the stage of development in given countries. What is the stage of development we are in today in India? And what is the stage of development that Sri Lanka is in? What is the stage of development Somalia is in? What is the stage of development Norway is in? So that way, the stage of development where a country stands, that also decides what is development for a country. What is meant by development to that country? What is development for an Indian? What is development for a Sri Lankan? What is development for an Ethiopian? Right? So like that, it differs also, you can say. So what I have given is an overview of the various debates, and also the perspectives on development, that the knowledge of development that we have gathered, or the idea of development, how it has been evolving over a period. That's what I tried introducing. So here I will leave you with these 3 questions. If you forget all the slides, if you forget all what I was talking about, you suppose some of you think you might forget whatever I was talking to you about. No worry, just this one slide you remember, and this is an important one. The question to ask about a country's development. Suppose you want to know if a country, it can be a country, it can be a state, it can be a village. Let us take, because we are talking about the idea of development. So maybe let us have in mind any country. So you ask these 3 questions. You ask these 3 questions to know about the development of a country, the development stage a country is in. The first question is, what has been happening to poverty? What has been happening to poverty? Poverty has been declining or increasing in this country. Take data and see what has been happening to poverty. What has been happening to unemployment? Unemployment has been increasing or decreasing. And what has been happening to inequality? Inequality has been increasing or decreasing, right? So these 3 questions: what has been happening to poverty? What has been happening to unemployment? What has been happening to inequality? Ask these 3 questions. You can write an essay about that country just with this data. These 3 data points, you can write an essay about any given country, if a country is developing or not developing. And I would say this, these 3 questions, it is not that I am giving you these 3 questions, and these 3 questions come from D. Sears, the man who wrote the Dictionary for Development. The man who wrote Dictionary for Development, he has raised these 3 important questions. And with these 3 important data points, 3 important questions, you can say if a country is making progress or it is in a degressive state. You can come to know that. Even if the per capita income doubled, suppose you say the per capita income doubled in that country, it would be strange to call it development if any of these indices have been growing worse. If there is poverty has been growing worse, unemployment has been growing worse, inequality has been growing worse, but if per capita income doubled means it does not It does not make any sense. It does not make any sense. So have these three questions. I leave you with these three questions. What has been happening to poverty? What has been happening to unemployment? What has been happening to inequality? Ask these three questions and take data for these three, and you can talk about any country if that country is towards development or towards regression. So I leave you here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And if you have anything to ask me, discuss, I will be happy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful occasion for us. You delivered everything is very clearly. Many are asking questions from YouTube and Google Meet also. Now the time for question and answer session. Vaishaka Turkey want to ask one question through Google Meet. Please, Vaishaka Turkey.
May I speak?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful session. I am a social work student, so this topic was worth it for me. Yes, so sir, I have few questions. It could be lame, so please pardon me for that. My question is, sir, that recently India spent a lot of money on the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel statue, and we have spent a lot of money on statues and all those things. But this current pandemic has shown us that where we need to spend money. So my question is, when we spend money on the statues and all those things, what kind of development we intend to? Because the need of country is something different in present scenario.
Yeah. You are giving me an answer, or you are asking me a question?
Sir, I first want to understand if India is spending so much money on statues and all.
No, for me, it doesn't sound like a question. To me, it sounds like an answer you are giving. But anyway, I answer development related questions. I don't answer political questions. This is let us ask a development related question, and I don't answer political questions. So I'm right. I'm sorry. And and also what you ask doesn't sound like a question to me. It sounds like an answer. You have an answer. You have an answer. You want to have that answer from my mouth.
Okay, thank you for giving clarity, sir. Sir, I have one
Thank
more
you for next question.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, one question is from Salim Nair. In your thought, what approach is best for community development?
Again, you're asking me very difficult questions only, because you see, I was telling you development. That's what 1 hour I was discussing about that only. You cannot say that this is what development is. This is what your approach should be. This is what your strategy should be. That's what I have been discussing about all through, right? So you cannot give a prescription here. You cannot give a prescription here. It depends on the context. And I told you finally also, I left you with that thought that it depends on the stage of development a country is, the stage of development at a given village is, or the stage of development at a given community is, right? So you need to have a proper understanding of situations and conditions in a given community, situations, and that's why you are going to study the villages. Why are you? Otherwise, you don't have to go to any village. If you have a prescription that is applicable universally, or a prescription that is applicable for all over India, for all the villages in India, for all the communities in India, we don't have to go to villages at all. Why do we go to villages? To study the situation and conditions. Why do we do that? Because we know every village is different. We know every community is different. The stage of development, the villages are at different stages of development, right? So we need to have a proper understanding of the community situations and conditions in which they live, the facilities with which they live, the opportunities with which they live, right? So based on that, I think we need to decide the approach. We need to decide the strategy, and it would be wrong if I suggest an approach here. I will be making a mistake. I'll be making a mistake if I give you an approach here.
Sir, next question from Mukesh Pradhan. What should be the indication of development for India in current time?
This is a good question. I appreciate the question. This is a good question. And you see if you talk about the current situation, and the government is feeling to be in a tight corner. We are all, as development professionals, we are all feeling to be in a tight corner because of the two challenging questions before us. One is life, the other is livelihoods. Which is important? Life is important. Shall I say life is important or livelihood is important? Yes, life is important. It is immediate. Life is important. It is immediate. So we need to have proper healthcare facilities. We need to have proper healthcare facilities to be able to provide the healthcare required for this COVID pandemic. That is one. Life. But we cannot say that, you see, life is important. Focus on life, focus on hospital, focus on doctors, nurses, and that is what is required. Let us forget about livelihoods. We cannot say that. Let us lock down, let us close down, right? That is short term. If life is immediate, and livelihood, although may not be immediate, but it is very, very short term, right? It is short term. So you need to address simultaneously. You need to address the question of life and livelihood simultaneously. And we cannot say just because you want to address the life question, you cannot say that you want to ask the livelihood question to wait. A livelihood question cannot wait. Livelihood question can wait for 1 week, 10 days. 1 week, 10 days, 1 month you can close down. But everybody has to work so that you can have some food to eat and remain alive, right? So I mean, that it is a challenging question for governments and also development professionals. And the approach government is taking is good only. They halfway they play with I mean, whatever they should be doing with the life question, and half the time they are dealing with the livelihoods related question, and where they are supposed to give the safety nets, the poorest of the poor, they are giving through rations, through Narega program, and giving money 4,000, 2,000, 5,000, right? They are doing all that because they know that livelihoods is also important. When there is no livelihoods, then at least you must give them some support so that they remain alive for another 1 month, 2 months, until they find a job, until the pandemic normalizes. So this is a very ticklish question, whether it is life or livelihood. Both are important, and one is immediate, the other is short term. And the way the government, especially government of Tamil Nadu, is approaching is good only compared to many others. Like many governments I see, they are trying to underplay the number. They are trying to say, no, there is no COVID at all here, and only hardly 100 people are affected. And so instead of doing that, at least you accept the reality and face the reality. Try to tide over the problem. That's happening. I'm happy about it.
Next question from Dr. Nirmala. What has been happening to the health? Is it not important to the development of country?
Health, is it? What is happening to
health.
I think I answered this question before. I think I answered this question. Health is immediate. Health is important. Health is immediate. Health means, I mean, life in pandemic. And madam, if madam has said, if the question is different, I don't understand. Is it about health or life?
Next question.
Okay.
Health, sir.
Health is important.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm Dr. Nirmala.
Yes,
sir, to assess a country, there are 3 indicators you mentioned at the end of your presentation, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So under that, health also may be a component. That is what I was asking, sir.
You can add a 4th question, madam. I have no objections. But this 3 questions, there are 3 questions I mentioned about poverty, unemployment, and then inequality. If you see these 3, if you go to measure, then you will understand that it is. I mean, you will find the questions related to health, questions related to education, and other things coming also. They are attendant to that, and you find them coming also. If I am not poor, I can afford healthcare, right? Even if facilities are there, if I am poor and becoming poorer, I cannot afford healthcare. Right? So you ask these 3 questions. It is not I told you I say, and it is not that I say also. I told you that it is from these years, and I find them very meaningful, because of this reason. If I can tell you that just one example like this one, that you when you become poorer and poorer, and even if healthcare is available in your country, if it is beyond your affordability, and what is the use of that? What is the use of that? If you don't have employment, the second question is about employment and unemployment. If you are unemployed, and day by day your situation is becoming worse, and what is the use if there is healthcare available, very good facilities available, but I am unemployed, I am poor, becoming poorer, I cannot afford that. I think it is an attendant question there.
Thank you, sir, for clarifying.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Next question may be the last one. Now, P. Anandan is asking, currently, what are the schemes we are having to develop villages?
Maybe I would ask Dr. Rajvel to fix one more session. we have plenty of them. We have plenty of central government schemes. We have plenty of state government schemes. We need to be familiar with all of them. Right? So yes, you asked a good question, but this is not a question that I can answer. You take down number one, number two, number three. I cannot answer like this. There are plenty. Like for example, this. Jal Jeevan Mission. If you take one program, Jal Jeevan Mission, it aims at giving functional tape connection to every rural household by 2024. And the progress they are making is very astonishing. From 18% today, they have reached 44%, and they have 3 years to go now. Right. So that is one program. If I am a household in a village that I don't have a piped water supply connection, I was walking about 100 meters, 200 meters to collect water from a common water collection point or a well or open well somewhere. But now I don't have to go. I will get a yard connection in my house. Means that is something very good. I am going to get. So that is one scheme. Right, that is one scheme. Similarly, you have schemes for agriculture. You have schemes for the aged, the disabled, right? For girl children, scholarships. You have many of them. So I would suggest you to go into the websites of the Ministry of Rural Development and also the Ministry of Agriculture. There are many programs. I mean, just two I am referring because there are many programs in Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Rural Development, I can say.
I think this will be the last question. Renuga Vijay Gupta asking that what is the role of social worker in rural development? How to contribute for development? I think it is a common.
Rajvel can help me answer this question, I think. What is the role of social worker in development? Social worker, you see, what I would say is, you can, if you develop empathy, that is one thing. If you develop some empathy when somebody is suffering, and if you develop some empathy, if you understand their problem as if it is your problem, maybe that can be one important approach. That can be one way of helping people. And there are several ways of doing development, rural development or community development. But the thing is that which we are missing is that we think sometimes it happens that we think my job ends here. Our job doesn't end somewhere, and we need to go beyond. And we need to see if I can develop an empathy and understand the problem from the standpoint of the man who is experiencing it, and in what way I can help. So if you think that way, maybe that is one thing I can tell you. And what way means I cannot list out that you provide them food security, provide them drinking water. I cannot list like that. And if you have this mindset of working with the people and getting closer to the people, understanding the problem from their own perspective, and that will go a long way in solving social problems. I think so. And
thank you,
I'm
sir.
happy. Yeah, I'm happy for the invitation. I'm happy about the invitation. It was a great session, and to be with you discussing about all these things. So I must thank the entire team of Social Work Department and Dr. Rajvel and Professor Mangleshwaran and my friend here, Geo George, and he was in touch with me for 2-3 days now. So thank you all very much for the invitation, and I look forward to my other colleagues to come and make their presentations this afternoon and tomorrow. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir,
Bye.
formal
Bye.
vote of
Thank you,
thanks.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful occasion for us. Our guest speaker provides a brief or overall view of idea of development, as the idea of development is also process of development. That is, earlier it was a food, to now it is like a reach to everyone for food, our Wi-Fi, like that is moving on. Now the time for Thanksgiving. Next, I call upon Mr. K. Shiva, Social Worker Trainee, Department of Social Work, Bharatdasan University, for giving the vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Shiva.
Thank you, Mr. Geo George, for this wonderful opportunity to propose a vote of thanks. The beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it from you. On behalf of my team, I would like to thank our chief guest, Dr. R. Ramesh, Associate Professor, Central for Rural Infrastructure, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj, Hyderabad, for empowering us by providing an overview on the idea of development. Thank you, sir. My heartfelt thanks to Professor and Head of the Department, Dr. R. Mangleshwaran, assisting us in intensive learning and shaping us. Once again, thank you, sir. And I thank our senior faculty, Dr. P. Ilango, and Associate Professor, Dr. Geo Jirida Janajan LGO, Assistant Professor, Dr. D. Nirmala, GET faculty, Dr. M. Suresh Kumar, Dr. R. Karthikeyan, Dr. R. Selomani, and I would like to thank our workshop director, Dr. N. Rajavel. Thank you, sir. Special thanks to technical team, research scholars, MSW members. With your help and support, we were able to successfully complete this program. I thank God for your participation and willingness to step outside your comfort zone to attending this workshop. Thank you, participants. Over to Mr. Geo George.
Thank you, Mr. Shiva. We have participants from different parts of India: Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Northeast, Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir, so on. Thanks to all. I hope you have found this morning presentations informative and useful. Now the time of signing off. Let's gather together at 3 p.m. today for second session of this workshop by Dr. Lakan Singh, Associate Professor, Center for Rural Infrastructure, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayat Raj, Hyderabad, over the topic on the idea of modern villages. Thank you. We'll meet again at 3 p.m. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.